It was a crisp January day in 2025. The air was cold, and the sky was a clear, piercing blue. The Capitol building stood tall and imposing, a symbol of American democracy that had weathered countless storms. Yet, on this day, it seemed to stand as a silent witness to a nation at a crossroads. The American flag fluttered in the wind, but something felt different. The flag, a symbol of unity and freedom, now seemed to wave over a country more divided than ever before. The stars and stripes, once a source of pride, now evoked mixed emotions among the populace. The air crackled with tension, a palpable sense of unease. People gathered in small groups, their faces etched with worry and anticipation. Conversations were hushed and eyes darted nervously as if everyone was waiting for something monumental to happen. The atmosphere was electric, charged with the weight of the moment. Donald J. Trump, against all odds, was back. His arrival was met with a mix of cheers and jeers, a reflection of the nation's deep divide. Flanked by a formidable security detail, he waved to the crowd, his expression a blend of triumph and defiance. For his supporters, this was a moment of vindication. For his detractors, a moment of dread. He stood once again on the steps of the Capitol, ready to be sworn in as the 47th President of the United States. The oath of office, a solemn promise to uphold the Constitution, took on new significance. As he raised his hand, the weight of history seemed to press down on the moment, amplifying its gravity. Trump's return to the Oval Office was unprecedented in modern American history. Never before had a former president, after a contentious and polarizing term, managed to stage such a dramatic comeback. His supporters celebrated with fervor, waving flags and chanting slogans, while his critics braced themselves for what lay ahead. After a tumultuous 4 years, followed by a bitter defeat in 2020, he had managed to claw his way back to power. His campaign had been relentless, tapping into the frustrations and hopes of millions. The victory was not just his, it was a statement from his base, a declaration that they were not done fighting for their vision of America. His victory sent shockwaves through the nation, exposing a deep and perhaps irreparable divide. Families, friends, and communities found themselves at odds, torn apart by differing beliefs and values. The election had not just been a political contest, it had become a battle for the soul of the nation. Half the country saw him as a savior, a man who could restore America to its former glory. They believed in his vision, his promises, and his ability to shake up the status quo. For them, his return was a beacon of hope, a chance to reclaim what they felt had been lost. They cheered his name, donning "Make America Great Again" hats for a second time. The rallies, the chants, the sea of red hats, it was all a powerful reminder of the movement he had built. A movement that, despite the odds, had proven its resilience and strength. The other half watched in horror, fearing the very future of American democracy. To them, his return signaled a potential erosion of democratic norms, a threat to the values they held dear. The anxiety was palpable, a gnawing fear of what the next 4 years might bring. The scene was set for a second Trump presidency, one that promised to be even more consequential, more divisive, and more unpredictable than the first. The stakes were higher, the challenges greater, and the nation's eyes were fixed on what would unfold. The Capitol, with its dramatic sky backdrop, stood as a silent observer to the unfolding drama. The question on everyone's mind was simple but terrifying. What would a second Trump term mean for America? Would it bring about the change his supporters so fervently desired? Or would it deepen the divisions and push the nation further into turmoil? As the flag fluttered in the wind, the nation held its breath, bracing for the unknown. The inauguration ceremony was a spectacle of Americana, a grand display that captured the essence of the nation's spirit. The air was thick with anticipation and the sense of history in the making. Every detail, from the flags fluttering in the breeze to the meticulously arranged decorations, was designed to evoke a sense of pride and unity. It was a day that would be remembered for its grandeur and its significance in the annals of American history. The event was a carefully choreographed display of pomp and circumstance, a testament to the nation's enduring traditions. The precision with which each element was executed spoke volumes about the importance of the occasion. From the military bands playing patriotic tunes to the ceremonial guards standing at attention, every aspect was a reminder of the country's rich heritage and the solemnity of the moment. The National Mall was adorned with flags and bunting, transforming the heart of the Capitol into a sea of red, white, and blue. The sight was both awe-inspiring and humbling, a visual representation of the nation's unity and strength. As the sun rose, casting a golden hue over the decorations, it was clear that this was a day of celebration and reflection. Giant screens broadcast the event to the crowds, ensuring that no one missed a moment of the historic proceedings. The screens, strategically placed throughout the mall, allowed people from all walks of life to witness the ceremony. The collective experience of watching the inauguration together created a sense of camaraderie and shared purpose among the attendees. Security was tighter than ever before, a stark reminder of the political climate. The presence of heavily armed guards and extensive security measures underscored the challenges facing the nation. Despite the festive atmosphere, there was an underlying tension, a recognition of the divisions that had brought the country to this point. The heightened security was a necessary precaution, reflecting the reality of the times. Trump, a master showman, embraced the theatrics. His entrance was nothing short of dramatic, with carefully orchestrated lighting and music that heightened the sense of anticipation. It was a performance designed to captivate and inspire, a reflection of his unique approach to politics. His ability to command attention and create a spectacle was on full display, setting the tone for the rest of the ceremony. He arrived with Melania, their entrance met with thunderous applause from his supporters. The couple's arrival was a moment of high drama, with the crowd erupting in cheers and applause. Melania, elegant and poised, complemented Trump's larger-than-life presence. Together, they embodied the image of a powerful and charismatic duo ready to take on the challenges of the presidency. The crowd roared as he took the oath of office, his hand resting on a gilded Bible. The moment was charged with emotion, a culmination of months of campaigning and political maneuvering. As Trump repeated the words of the oath, the significance of the moment was palpable. It was a pledge to uphold the Constitution and serve the nation, a solemn promise that resonated with the weight of history. Notable faces dotted the VIP section, a who's who of political and cultural figures. The presence of these individuals added to the gravitas of the event, a reminder of the far-reaching impact of the inauguration. Their expressions ranged from solemn to celebratory, reflecting the diverse reactions to the day's proceedings. Ted Cruz and Marjorie Taylor Greene were present, their smiles tight. Their attendance was a testament to the shifting dynamics within the Republican Party, a sign of the new alliances and divisions that had emerged. Their expressions, though outwardly supportive, hinted at the underlying tensions and uncertainties that lay ahead. Rudy Giuliani, looking older but no less fervent, waved enthusiastically. His presence was a reminder of the long and storied career that had brought him to this point. Despite the controversies and challenges he had faced, Giuliani's enthusiasm and dedication to the cause were undiminished. His wave was a gesture of solidarity and support, a signal to the crowd that he remained a steadfast ally. The absence of many traditional Republican figures spoke volumes about the party's transformation under Trump. The empty seats were a stark contrast to the otherwise packed VIP section, a visual representation of the divisions within the party. The notable absences were a reminder of the shifting allegiances and the new political landscape that had emerged. The ceremony itself was a mix of the familiar and the jarring, a blend of tradition and modernity. The juxtaposition of time-honored rituals with contemporary elements created a unique and memorable experience. It was a reflection of the changing times and the evolving nature of the presidency, a nod to the past while looking towards the future. Lee Greenwood, a Trump favorite, performed God Bless the USA. His performance was a highlight of the ceremony, a moment that resonated deeply with the crowd. The patriotic anthem, delivered with passion and conviction, was a reminder of the values and ideals that the nation holds dear. Greenwood's connection with the audience was palpable, a testament to the power of music to unite and inspire. Kid Rock, a surprise addition, roused the crowd with a rendition of Born Free. His performance added a touch of rebellious energy to the proceedings, a contrast to the more traditional elements of the ceremony. The crowd's enthusiastic response was a reflection of the diverse tastes and attitudes that characterized Trump's America. Kid Rock's presence was a reminder of the broad and eclectic coalition that had brought Trump to power. The juxtaposition of patriotic anthems and hard rock anthems seemed to embody the contradictions of Trump's America. The blend of different musical styles was a metaphor for the diverse and often conflicting elements that defined the nation. It was a celebration of the country's rich cultural tapestry, a reminder that despite the differences, there was a common thread that united everyone. The inauguration was not just a political event, but a cultural moment that captured the essence of a nation in transition. Trump's return to power was improbable, but not entirely unexpected. The political landscape had been shifting for years, and the undercurrents of discontent were palpable. Many Americans felt that the country was on the wrong track, and Trump's message resonated deeply with those who believed that the establishment had failed them. The seeds of his 2024 victory were sown in the ashes of the 2020 election and the chaotic years that followed. The 2020 election had been a turning point, a moment of reckoning for the nation. The chaos of election night, with its accusations of fraud and the subsequent legal battles, left a lasting scar on the American psyche. The boarded-up storefronts and the palpable tension in the air were symbols of a nation in turmoil. The withdrawal from Afghanistan, the ongoing pandemic, and a faltering economy had left many Americans feeling disillusioned and vulnerable. The images of the Kabul airport evacuation with desperate people clinging to planes were a stark reminder of the chaos and uncertainty that had come to define the era. The pandemic, with its waves of infection and the accompanying economic shutdowns, had upended lives and livelihoods. Small businesses closed their doors, some never to reopen, and the sense of economic security that many had taken for granted was shattered. Trump, with his knack for tapping into the anxieties of his base, offered himself as the solution, the only one who could make America great again. His rallies became a refuge for those who felt alienated and forgotten, a place where their fears and frustrations were acknowledged and validated. Trump's message was clear: he was the only one who could restore the country to its former glory. He campaigned on a platform of economic nationalism, promising to bring back jobs and restore American dominance on the world stage. His speeches were filled with promises of job creation and economic revival. He spoke of bringing manufacturing back to American soil, of renegotiating trade deals to favor American workers, and of standing up to foreign adversaries. The imagery of factories humming with activity and the American flag waving proudly in the background became central to his campaign narrative. His message resonated with voters who felt left behind by globalization and cultural change. In rural America, where factories had closed and jobs had disappeared, Trump's promises of economic revival struck a chord. These were communities that had been hollowed out by the forces of globalization, where the loss of manufacturing jobs had led to economic decline and social disintegration. For many, Trump's message was a lifeline, a promise of a return to better days. They flocked to his rallies, drawn to his fiery rhetoric and his promises of a return to a simpler, more prosperous time. The energy at these rallies was palpable, a mix of hope and defiance. Supporters waved flags and cheered as Trump spoke, their enthusiasm undimmed by the controversies that swirled around him. For them, Trump was more than a politician. He was a symbol of resistance against a system they believed had betrayed them. The 2024 election was one of the most contentious in American history. The divisions that had been simmering for years came to a head, and the country found itself more polarized than ever. Long lines at polling stations, heated arguments at voting booths, and protests on both sides of the political spectrum were common sights. The sense of urgency and the high stakes of the election were felt by all. Accusations of voter fraud and foreign interference flew from both sides. The integrity of the electoral process was called into question, and trust in the system was eroded. Headlines about voter fraud and foreign interference dominated the news cycle, adding to the atmosphere of suspicion and mistrust. Poll workers, under immense pressure, worked tirelessly to ensure that every vote was counted, but the shadow of doubt loomed large. Social media became a battleground of misinformation and vitriol. Platforms that were once seen as tools for connection and communication were now arenas for conflict and division. Political posts went viral, often spreading misinformation and stoking the flames of outrage. Online arguments became increasingly hostile, and the digital divide mirrored the real-world divisions that were tearing the country apart. In the end, Trump emerged victorious, albeit by a razor-thin margin. The celebrations of his supporters were jubilant, but the narrowness of the victory underscored the deep divisions within the country. For Trump and his base, it was a vindication, a triumph against the odds. But for many others, it was a moment of profound uncertainty, a sign that the nation's wounds were far from healed. The reaction to Trump's victory was immediate and visceral. His supporters erupted in celebration, their cheers echoing through the streets. They saw his win as a vindication, a sign that their values and their vision for America had prevailed. For his critics, it was a day of mourning. They took to the streets in protest, their chants of "Not My President" a chilling echo of 2016. They feared the erosion of democratic norms, the rise of authoritarianism, and the rollback of civil rights. The nation was more divided than ever, split along ideological, racial, and socio-economic lines. The chasm between the two Americas, once a crack, had widened into an abyss. The question was whether this divide could ever be bridged, or whether it would continue to fester, threatening the very fabric of American society.